Hello and welcome to Thursday Thoughts. Thursday Thoughts? What on earth are they, I hear you ask? Well, my friend Lucy and I meet every week over on Instagram to talk all things personal growth because she is as obsessed with it as I am. And we decided that we might as well put those conversations out as a weekly podcast. So now you can listen to us chat here on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And we'll be talking about topics such as spirituality, limiting beliefs, the ego, imposter syndrome, gratitude, meditation, confidence, and so much more. So if you're ready, here we go. So, right, what are we talking about? We're talking about...
Yes. Do you want to start, Polly? I think you'll probably be better at sort of talking about... Hi, Auntie Lou, bless her. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by my niece's comment. Hi, babe! Yeah, you'll probably be better at sort of understanding the kind of... not necessarily the science behind it, but sort of how, the kind of benefits. And we both do it, but I think you're probably more of a pro about meditation than I am.
Well, I don't know about that. I did do a course once upon a time, but there are so many benefits. There are so many benefits which are backed by scientific studies. It decreases stress, it decreases anxiety, it improves the health. This is a good one. It improves the health of your telomeres, which are basically on every single strand of DNA. They're like a little shoelace tip on every single strand, and that just can really, the longer the telomeres, the longer your life expectancy and the healthier you are. And meditation is proved to really help keep those telomeres really strong. So it has so many benefits. It it really helps reduce your cortisol levels, and cortisol, as we know, is it's the precursor really to all major issues like inflammation, which then cause lots of other health. It's good in a certain way, don't get me wrong, we do need a certain amount of cortisol to keep us safe, but too much of it really affects us in so many ways, particularly as well at perimenopause and menopause, because it really starts to interfere with your hormone balance as well. So yes, huge amounts of benefits. And I think, for me, meditation has given me sort of not just only the internal benefits of being able to become more conscious, aware of my thoughts, and being aware of the way I speak to myself and be able to get more control of what is going on internally, but also that sort of translates externally in the way that I am in the world and how I handle situations in the world and how I handle relationships and who I'm being. There was a point in time, I think, where I was literally just trudging through life, so unconscious, not aware of what I was thinking, what I was doing. And it kind of is just, it allows you to wake up and just become aware of your
totally. And Polly, tell me, how did you actually get into meditation? Because I think one of the things that certainly I've found over the years, because meditation is something I tried years ago, and like so many people, I was just like, this isn't working, this is shit, this is really hard, why am I doing this? And I sort of gave up, and I did that several times. And it was only relatively recently that I just made a decision that I was going to start doing it, because so many people, so many successful, happy people talk about meditation. And so I kind of made a decision and have been doing it ever since. And I think it, in my own experience, just gets better and better and better and better. But I think often the problem is that people think it's not working or they're not doing it right, and so they just give up. So tell us how you sort of got into it and how you started it and maintained it as a practice, as we both now do.
Yeah, well, I was very like you. I dabbled with it for quite a few years, thinking it was something, I ought to be doing, I should be doing it. So I think the first thing I did was, the first app I tried was Calm, the Calm app. So I downloaded that, and I didn't really have a practice. I would sort of dip in, dip out. wondering if I was doing it right, wondering if it was having any sort of effect, and then didn't really stick with it. So I kind of let that go. And then I think I then maybe tried the mindfulness
Oh
app,
yeah.
my Headspace app. I did that for a bit, and actually that was quite good. But I just was dabbling, and then I signed up for a course actually with the Brighton Buddhist Centre, and I did a sort of a 6 week course. There was like meeting once a week course, which I really enjoyed, and that kind of taught me a lot about the actual process of meditation, and that actually you're not meant to.
Stop your
I think
thoughts.
you're not meant to
Yeah.
just get rid of all of your thoughts. It's actually just becoming aware of your thoughts, and actually it's training that muscle of every time your mind wanders, actually every time you bring it back into presence, like, oh shit, I'm off again thinking about what I'm doing later on. But once you bring it back in, that is actually what you're training that sort of awareness muscle. And I think that for me suddenly was made sense, and it was a bit like, oh, okay, I'm not meant to be sitting here. And it was all sort of clearing my mind, because before that it was always just something I just felt I needed to tick off, another thing I needed to tick off in my day that I ought to do, without really getting it. And also it taught me that you don't necessarily have to sit down for a long period of time. You can actually become conscious of your thoughts throughout your day. And okay, it's not, there is I think meditation is such a broad term. You don't necessarily have to be sitting down for half an hour doing it, although I do that a lot of the time. So I think it's just for me it was a real awareness of finding something which works for me, and I think once I then committed to a practice of it and realized, like you, that oh my goodness, all the people who are doing anything amazing, and well, not all the people, but a lot of the people who are doing anything successful in life are meditating. There's something to this. And then I actually then thought, right, I need to be consistent. And it was only really when I became very consistent with it most days that I suddenly started to really feel the benefits of it. So that really, it's taken a while, and now I'm really happy that I've got a very regular meditation practice. So yeah, how about you?
Well,
I mean, how did you?
on and
How
off.
long have you
I
been
mean, the last
meditating?
couple of years, but I would say actually the last maybe year and a half that I've been doing it more consistently. But as I said, I had a few sort of I've had several failed attempts over the years. But I think one thing about meditation, if anyone's thinking about doing it and hasn't yet done it, I personally think that a really good place to start is with a guided meditation, because I've done all sorts of different meditations. So, for example, I also have the Calm app. So I've done meditations with just like, the sound of rainfall or the sound of birds or the jungle or whatever. And I've done a bit of transcendental meditation, which is where I know you know this, but just to anyone who's watching, where you repeat a mantra. And so for a while, I used to say, I have unwavering faith in the universe. I have absolute faith and trust. I have unwavering faith in the universe. I have absolute faith and trust, over and over again. But I used to start saying it out loud a few times, and then just you keep saying it in your head. And of course, it's all about the kind of breathing. And actually, I'm going off on a tangent, but one thing I love about meditation, and it's related to what you were saying about how it reduces cortisol in the body. Without fail, when I meditate, I can feel my breathing slow down and my heart rate slow down so considerably, like so significantly. But anyway, so I think there are various ways of meditating, and I used to do it where I had, like I say, just the sounds of rainfall, or whatever, in the background, and then doing this transcendental mantra type thing. And then I also started doing guided meditations. And the reason I think they're brilliant is because when you first start meditating and you're like, oh, fuck, what am I doing? This is just like, not working. And you're kind of panicking, thinking, oh, God, but my thoughts are all over the place. And I think that's one of the main problems, is that people, when they're trying to meditate, they think the fact that they're thinking lots of thoughts means that they're not doing it right. And that's just simply not the case, because, of course, none of us can entirely turn off our thoughts. Like, nobody can do that. That's how the human brain works and how our mind works. But the great thing about guided meditations is that you've got something to tune into and you've got someone to follow. So I now do, I pretty much always do a guided meditation. But like we were saying last week, I started doing breath work at first of all, because breath work I find really drops me into that place of kind of alignment, and that place where you feel like, you know, you're the I am rather than that I am Lucy Megison. So I find that really helpful. And one other thing I want to say about meditation is that you're absolutely right, in as much as you have to be consistent. And with like so many things in life, you don't see results. Like with meditation, you don't see results in a week or even a month. It's much longer term consistency where you start to really see the benefits. I mean, I've certainly found that. And what I've discovered is that the longer I do it for, in terms of, you know, the amount of time, you know, in the last year or 2 years or whatever, but also the longer the meditation, I find the more benefit I get, because the longer I meditate for, the more I kind of drop in and the more I sort of lose myself. And again, I think we were saying last week that I get to the point where, say I've got my hands, because I sit cross-legged on my sofa with my hands sort of in my lap or on my knees, kind of like, you know, in that sort of classic meditation pose. But if I have my hands in my lap, I find that when I go really sort of deep, man, I stop feeling my hands. I can't feel in a really nice way, because you're so in the meditation that you almost lose your sense of your body, which is actually, it sounds really kind of woo and a bit like what the fuck, but actually it's amazing. And then the other thing that I wanted to say is that meditation is, I mean, we could talk about visualization in another Monday motivation sesh, but I always now incorporate visualization in meditation. So I will, not for the first bit, but kind of for the last bit, and I will focus on and visualize the things that I want in my life, and I will get into the feeling of how it will feel once they've happened. And I find, because I actually find visualization really quite difficult, but again, we'll talk about this another time, but it is something that I now incorporate in my meditation. So yeah.
A very quick break to ask you to hit the follow or subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you're enjoying this episode, I'd be super grateful if you could hit those stars and rate it too. Thank you.
Yeah, I do a whole mishmash. I kind of for about a year I probably did
that's what I do now.
morning meditation for about a year. So I did that religiously because that has a little bit of everything in it, and and it's 23. I think it's like 23 minutes, and I did that. But then I'm kind of like, oh, I'm a bit bored of that now. I need to do something else. So now actually I really mix it up. So some days I'll do some breath work, and then I will literally just sit with nothing and quiet, and I just really enjoy the silence. I might try and pick up on a bird tweeting outside, or just really just sit there, you know, even if that's just for 10 minutes. And other days I'll do a guide. I mean, I've got so many guided meditations which I really enjoy, and at the moment actually I'm doing one called the 6-phase meditation, which is by Vishen, who is the founder of Mind Valley, because I did 4-3 Valley, and I quite enjoy doing his. It's just, again, it's called the 6-step meditation, but it just takes you through. It starts off with giving out loads of love and compassion to yourself and then to everybody else, and tapping into that. It then goes into, oh God, I can't even remember what it is now. There's a step which is all about forgiveness. There's definitely a visualization step. There's a blessing bit at the end. It's very short, but it takes you through these different stages of all these. It's just a really nice kind of he says he doesn't like to call it, he's called it meditation, but he doesn't like to call it a meditation because everyone has preconceived ideas of what meditation is. It's really just different steps to kind of condition yourself to have a really kind of happy, successful day, productive day. And that simply is, you know, it's just a few steps, and that's 20 minutes, and it's really so. Again, but then I quite like sometimes to do a much longer meditation where I, like you, I get properly in the zone and I can't feel my body, and it's just almost like giving your mind and your brain a real rest and a real holiday, because you kind of do go off into somewhere else. And I'm not saying that my thoughts don't go off; they certainly do. But when you're going into that longer, deeper state, it is like a really lovely break, isn't it, from all the general shit.
And one of the things that I love so much about meditation is that not only does it have all of these sort of mental benefits, but you can feel the physical benefits as well, I think, anyway. And so I love that about it. But going back to what you were saying earlier in terms of how, you know, the sort of benefits of doing it, what are those benefits? Well, for me, I find that I've become way less reactive to just things and life and triggers and people and annoyances, and way more responsive. That isn't to say that I'm not sometimes still very fiery, because that's just who I am, and I can react to things. But in general, I think I've become less reactive and more able to just take a minute. And also it's just about mindfulness and awareness. All of this stuff, all of this personal growth stuff is it really begins and ends, really, I think, with awareness of your thoughts and just becoming more conscious. So I think it's a combination of meditation and just having worked so much on my thoughts, which is again is another topic for another session. But I think in general, meditation really, really makes me feel more chilled, just more chilled in general.
Yeah, but I think they go so hand in hand, don't they? That awareness and meditation, because they complement one another. Because I think the meditation allows you to become more aware of your thoughts, but you're becoming more aware of your thoughts then also sort of feeds into your meditation, because that's what it's kind of all about. But you're right, I'm so the same, honestly, Lucy. But I notice the people I'm noticing most with actually are my kids, because, you know, I've got 3 teenagers. They can really do a lot of things to really piss me off. You know, trying to just keep my house tidy for a start is a nightmare. And I used to get really, really riled and rattled by so many things. And now, actually, I honestly, since I've had a consistent meditation practice, I'm able just to let it go. Okay, some things will really piss me off, but I don't react in the way that I used to. I'm able to sort of detach from that situation, take a step back and go, it's not going to achieve anything if I shout at them or I get annoyed. It's just not going to achieve it. It's not worth it. So actually, it allows me to stop, take a breath, and actually speak to them and just say, you know, next time, can you please pick your towel up? Which I say about 50 times a day. So that's where it's so beneficial, I think. But, you know, in the wider world, if someone cuts you off in traffic or whatever, rather than screaming, shouting, you can actually go, you're maybe able to think about that person and have a bit more compassion towards that person. Go, maybe they're having a really shit day. Maybe there's a reason for that.
It's so true. And the thing is, you know, so many of these things do sound a bit like that. It's a bit like, you know, a bit sort of cringy, but it's so true. And again, I think it's also back to, you know, you were saying the thing in you know, when you're in the car and you're getting triggered. It's exactly those kinds of situations that I think meditation allows you to be just less triggerable. I'm just less triggerable, I think, because I meditate. And also it allows you to sort of tap into that whole, such an important, just huge thing that I don't think people think enough about, which is that the only thing we have control over is ourselves. And that is the way it is. But the number of people, myself included, you know, we go through our days sort of being, triggered by that and reacting to that, and we're pissed off because of that, and da, 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 da. And actually it's like, what is the fucking point? There is no point. Like, literally there is no point. So I think it allows you to be able to really put that into practice. I certainly found that's been a really big thing with me over the last few years of all of this personal growth stuff, is that I am so much better at being in a situation where something, and that isn't to say that something doesn't piss me off or something doesn't upset me or annoy me or whatever, or make me feel bad or whatever it is, those same things happen and I still feel those same feelings. But whereas I might have stewed about something for like 3 hours or half a day, or, I mean, actually, that's one of the best things I find about being single. Now I'm going off a complete tangent, but one of the best things about being single and living on your own, I find, is that you can't come home and rant to your boyfriend about all of the things that went wrong that day. And there's so much in that. There's so much good in that. Because, and anyway, I now don't feel the need to anyway, but yeah, it's about just having that real, and also it's a real kind of real proper understanding of the fact that we don't have control over anything apart from ourselves. Because everyone goes, oh yeah, no, I know that, and it's like, well, if you really know that you only have control over yourself, then why are you still stressing about something that happened 3 weeks ago? Why are you telling me about that thing that happened with that guy who did blah, 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 whatever it is, Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's all about that awareness of, what am I thinking? Is that serving me well? Can I let go of that? Not to say that not ignoring the fact that you need to feel what you're feeling. So it's not brushing it away, going, I'm not going to feel that. You have to feel what you're feeling. But when you notice it and you feel that feeling, then it can go. But it's when you brush it away, don't deal with it, and you're thinking about a million other things, that's when it just pops up somewhere else and it just lingers. So yes, it's kind of, there's two parts of it, isn't it? Like, don't dwell on all the nonsense, but then actually when there is something which you're feeling which needs to be felt, notice it, feel it, and then you can, of course, move on.
And I think I completely agree with everything you just said, and I think it's also about, I think there's a difference between the really big things that happen in life and the everyday annoyances and difficulties that happen in life. And actually, I think it's the way that I interpret it is, or partly is, that it's the little things that happen to us all day, every day, all the time, to all of us. Because it's, certainly, of course, we, like you say, we still have to feel our feelings 100%. And I do completely. But it's more about how you are on the daily with the kind of life shit that we all have to deal with all of the time. Do you know what I mean? So I would apply it more.
And how you react to other people. And, I find that doing all of this stuff, particularly having an awareness practice, really helps me catch myself if I'm about to go down the tangent of someone who's really, really upset me, really pissed me off, to start going, kind of about them. And actually it's like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to hope, that's what I find really useful, because it's so easy to do that. And particularly when I hear other people going down those roads as well, it's like, okay, I don't want to be involved in that sort of talk. It's kind of that sort of stuff doesn't help anybody really. How we talk about people, again, it's that kind of compassion piece. It's like, okay, it might be annoying, but let's not constantly gossip and talk about it in a negative way, because
totally. But I think I totally agree. But I think it can be really hard, because we're all so used to joining into those kind of conversations, and we're also used to like leaning into like being annoyed or feeling bad or feeling fucked off about something that is actually a practice in itself. I find it's a practice in itself to be like, no, I'm not going there. But you kind of like, you're like, I really want to. I sometimes get this in the coffee shop. I swear to God, the coffee shop is where where I'm most triggered. It's the place where I have to go, Lucy, because there are lots of little things that can really piss me off, and I'm just like, not all the time, because most of the time it's fine, but yeah, it can be difficult to really consciously pull yourself away from those situations where because it would be so much easier to just be like, yes, and then another thing, and then another thing, and oh my God, it's just so annoying. And I'm, Christ, I'm not going to pretend I'm anywhere near perfect in that regard, but you know what I mean? I think it's really interesting that it actually is quite difficult. It's like the fact that we're also addicted to feeling shit, and we're also addicted to complaining. We're also addicted to just feeling bad, and oh well, life is hard and life is shit. We're so used to so it's harder to feel good than it is to feel bad, which is insane. But it's so true, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It really is bizarre, but it's the way we're wired. So you have to consciously pull yourself away from it, which is completely bonkers. But you're right. But it is possible. And when you do put yourself away from it, you actually do feel so much. You don't get stuck in that loop, which
I know.
Right, but I've just seen it. We chat half an hour. It goes so quickly.
Well, it was lovely to speak to you, and for anyone that's watching, hopefully that was useful. But start meditating, because it's amazeballs.
Hopefully. Yes, and and also just to say, if you haven't got a meditation practice, or you're finding it difficult, start small. Just start small, even a couple of minutes, just sitting quietly, and then build it up from there. Don't start with like a half an hour meditation, because it's going to be not going to happen. Just start smaller, but try and be as consistent as possible. Try and find a spot every day. Ideally, sometime in the morning. I like to do it when I again, it's changing a bit, but I used to always do it just after a shower, and that was when I did it. But first thing in the morning is
when you've just woken up,
to be the best time, because your brain did it that sort of theta.
Holly, one more thing before we wrap up.
Yes.
So I just wanted to say that you can do walking meditation, which I think that might make people be like, oh right, so you can meditate while you're walking. And actually, it's not something that I've really done. But do you know anything about that? Because it might appeal to people more if you can do like a walking meditation.
Yeah. So it's just so it's just like mindful walking. It's just being really, really present. So as you're walking, just being really aware of the soles of your feet, how they're touching the ground, being really aware of what sounds you can hear. It's just using your senses in your surroundings. So what can you see? What can you hear? What can you feel? And just focusing on that. So you're so in the present moment. That's simply all it is. So it's not having anything in your ears to listen to. It's just being present in that moment. But a good place to start is just feeling each step as it hits the ground.
Yeah.
Even better if you're barefoot.
All right, love. Well, lovely to see you.
So
see you this time next week.
You too.
Don't know what we're talking about, but we'll no doubt
have a good day
and work it out. Yeah.
Find something.
Have a good day.
All right.
Bye.
Okay. Bye. Bye.